How many times can you appeal a Google Ads suspension? Well, the short answer is there is no specific limit on the number of appeals that you can submit. But there's some nuances to it that we'll get into as part of this video. And if you don't know who I am, my name is John from StubGroup. We are a Google Premier partner and the #1 resource in the world for fixing Google suspensions and policy violations. So let's talk about appealing. First of all, you might be talking about a Google Ads account. You might be talking about a Google Merchant Center account. In either of those cases, you can submit appeals to Google. With Merchant Center, there's a button to click to request an appeal. With Google Ads, there is a form that you fill out and then submit to request an appeal. And so again, Google, there's no set number of or limit on the number of appeals you can submit. Some people on the internet say differently. I've seen people say the number 3 often. You can only submit 3 appeals to Google, and that's just not accurate. That's not true. Now, there are some times where you do see a limit come into play, and that's usually on the Google Merchant Center side of things, where you might see the button that you typically would click to request a review no longer be there, and Google might say that you can't submit more review requests. Now, ironically, even though Google is saying that there are still ways that we have found to submit review requests to Google, and we've gotten Merchant Center accounts unsuspended where it said you could no longer submit appeals. And so if you're in that situation and you're not sure how to move forward with appealing that, reach out to StubGroup.com. We'd love to help. If you are not in that situation and you're just figuring out, again, how many appeals do I submit, something really important to keep in mind is that even though there is no specific limit, there is certainly a spectrum of returns, let's say, where the more appeals that you submit to Google, especially if you're not making significant changes from appeal to appeal, the less likely it is that appeals are going to get accepted. Now, again, there's caveats to that. There have been many situations where we have had to submit a number of appeals over time to get an ad account reinstated. So it's not the case that, hey, just because appeal number 2 or 3 or 4 were declined, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're up a creek without a paddle, so to speak, that you can't get the ad account unsuspended. But what you do need to do is in every appeal that you submit, you need to make the best case possible. Don't take the approach of, certainly don't take the approach of asking Google in an appeal what you did wrong, because that gets you nowhere. They won't tell you, and you're wasting precious opportunities. But what you want to be doing is you want to be showing Google, look, I am making changes, significant changes, doing significant detective work to try to figure out what may have gone wrong that triggered your system to think that I'm violating policies. I'm fixing these things. I'm explaining it all in my appeal, and here's what's going on. And so do your best possible job every single appeal. There's also a reality that sometimes the initial appeals that you submit might not get to humans at Google. They often go through automated reviews first. That doesn't mean you can get guaranteed in front of humans by submitting more appeals, but there are, again, kind of varying levels of things within Google, and there are ways you can structure appeals to try and make it more likely to get in front of humans so that you can get maybe some common sense applied to the situation as you're trying to appeal your suspension. So I hope that's helpful, and again, if you would like to work with the experts to take care of this for you and get you back online with Google, we'd love to help. Reach out through StubGroup.com or the links in this video description here so that we can get to work on your case.